Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Make a Good Mega Man Level Contest 2, or Magmal 2 for short. During the last part, I completed the first 4 levels of Tier 7, which were Biplane Bay, Blazeman, Gunpowder Cellar, and Cursor Curse. So in this part, I'll be completing 4 more levels. But before I move on to the next contestant stage, I'll be moving on to the so-called secret level of this tier, although it isn't as well hidden, it was right left of here. And what Past is saying is true, this is an old advert for the festival. And you may recognize this stage, which is Twilight Lodge. 1 energy element. If you watched my Let's Play of Mega Man's Christmas thingy way back at the beginning of the year, I played through this exact stage. This actually contains a boss that would have been in Mega Man Christmas Carol 3, but it was removed, or cut. So you already saw me play through this stage before, everything is about the same. The only difference is of course we're playing as a Met this time, plus we have all the upgrades from the previous parts of this LP. Oh, and by the way, in between this and the previous part, I bought the Met skin as promised. This was made to showcase how easy it is to build levels in a Magmal 2 dev kit. After all, this was built in only about a day if I recall correctly. I still like the bigger Sniper Joes over the smaller ones, that's for sure. They're a lot easier to hit and they have a much better detail. Really have nothing more to say about this stage other than the things I said during my first playthrough. After all, nothing of the stage was changed. Really, it's a nice, pleasant stage overall. If I were to rate this on the scale of this game's levels, I would place this in Tier 6, personally speaking. It's an overall pretty nice level. Nice challenge progression, nice difficulty progression, and nice introduction of gimmicks. Also nice reskinning of old gimmicks. I do like the bearded air tikis. Although I'm playing this more incompetently in comparison to my first playthrough. Well, that was Twilight Lodge, or as I knew it back at the beginning of the year, Mega Man's Christmas thingy. Overall, a pretty nice stage. So it's time to fight Wishing Star, who I think's weakness is the Mega Buster, but I'm not sure. I don't remember using the Slash Claw. Even though he is a shield-based World Master, you'd usually think his weakness would be the Slash Claw, but no it isn't. And yet I still died somehow. Whoops. I'm definitely not my A game today. But it seems that his weakness, as I said, is the charged Mega Buster. And another thing to note is that he takes 2 points of damage from the medium charge shots, so take advantage of that when possible. Alas, that's the end of Twilight Lodge, and that's one challenge completed. That challenge was essentially completing both of the secret levels in Tier 5 and Tier 7, those being City War 2017 Remake and this level. I wish there were more secret levels present in the tiers. They had a lot of neat variety. Oh well, at least we have Tier X for that. Oh yeah, from Cursor Curse in the previous part. I guess they wanted to move Junkman into the trash heap. And I guess that's where all the garbage and virus-filled adverts are. So on to the first actual contestant stage of this part. In 30th place is Cossack's Outer Citadel by Big Fish, with a score of 31.4. Kinda split judge decisions. Joopy and Guri didn't like it as much. Only one energy element. And judging by the soundtrack, this will be a Fortress level and a remake of the Cossack stages, or an upgraded alternate version. So immediately introduced to the shield attackers and Gabioles. And ice physics. Lots of bolts though. Never can have too many bolts. And now the Emorms or Imorms, or whatever these worms are called. Oh, let's call them worms. Much easier to remember. A lot of Mega Man enemies do have rather bizarre names. Oh goody, we also have the Tiki Poles, or Totem Polens as they're called. And the Ringman platforms too. Gosh, the momentum for these ice platforms is really strong. We have both types of Ringman platforms, I see. For a second there, I thought there was a Meteor spawning. What happened to the music there? Well, this stage wins the reward of the most odd music transition. It just faded out, then it went silent for a while, then the music started up again. No other stage had a musical transition like that, where the musical track went silent for a few seconds. At worst, most stages had an abrupt repeat of the song, but here it immediately stops, so that's a big flaw of this musical track. I wouldn't mind it fading out if it was at the end of the stage when we reached the boss door, but here, not really. And we have the Toadman Rain too. Lovely. And these are Byries. They are the cousin of the Gyries, of course. And we have auto-scrolling. That's quite neat. I do like that we have more auto-scrolling incorporated in many though more of these levels in Magmal 2, especially in comparison to the first Magmal. Once again, very odd musical looping. And this stage creator is really generous with all the bolts, seriously. Please put some noble nickels instead. We don't need this many bolts. Unless we want to farm, of course. Now we have the second auto-scroller. Out of all the stages I've played so far, I would say that this is one of the better usages of auto-scrolling. I see what I need to do here. Wheel cutter time. Oh, and of course the rain is pushing me back and forth, so I gotta be careful, so I am not crushed against the wall. So a good combination of auto-scrolling and the rain pushing us backwards. After all, if you're not careful, you can end up getting crushed against the wall. Oh, I guess that's the end of the stage. At least there was no anticlimax with a boss corridor. I would have liked to face a Cossack boss or something. Maybe even Matra or something, or Matra Mach 2, or any of the Cossack Citadel bosses. A remaked version. Oh well. Oh, and unlike the usual eye morms, these were actually visible before they dropped, so they're a lot more fair. Oh, never mind, I got it reversed. Before they were invisible, but Pyro and the rest of the devs made them visible, but this dev made them invisible again. Oh, that explains why they didn't pop up until I got close enough. And the giant chains of Byries were pretty nice. It's an above average stage. It existed, but it was fun. It was a nice mashup of all the 4 Cossack levels. Oh, that's a -2 because of the rushing shield attackers. This stage really took a hit on the musical front, especially with that really odd ending of the song. And the lack of challenges. This has more diverse opinions on the judge front, and in terms of making a fortress level, I think they nailed what they were looking for. 32 would be a fair score from me, I would say. 32 or 33. Down there I guess is the second Wily combo. We have the Wily Burger, the Wily Energy Bouncer, and the Wily Shake. Once again, I really enjoy the fact that we have the Energy Bouncer by default over here. It's just so useful and convenient. And I'm really thankful that Mega Man Maker also added in the Energy Balancer by default. So next up in 29th place is Fortified Lab by GransveldHakase. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. With a score of 31.6. It seems that Ace and Pyro didn't like it as much. The rest of the judges are more in agreement. Only one energy element. Well, I reiterate my earlier point of how many of these stages can be improved if they added at least 1 or 2 noble nickels somewhere. At the very least, I'm thankful that the Gunpowder Basement stage actually added in 1 noble nickel. Well, Gunpowder Cellar, I mean. It was really more of an abandoned basement stage. Also, I do like the transition from the outer space background to the inner space background, from going from a blue tile set to a more purplish one. Nice transition. Also, I just realized we're playing as a Metar slaughtering all sorts of other Metars. Oh goody, now we have those mine blocks. I don't know if they're actually part of the dev kit, or whether it was added in by the developer or designer of this stage. At least there's a timer written on the block itself which indicates when they'll be activated or blow up. Oh goody, we also have the Apache Joes making an appearance. Kind of a tight jump over there. I didn't want to take any risks there with the Sparkman platforms, especially with that tight squeeze. Or stuff like that could happen. It seems that it's suffering from the case that we have a square hitbox, which is a lot bigger than the actual graphic, unfortunately. And like most level designers, they pick the default hitboxes, which are squares, instead of being precision-based ones. So for spikes like that one, it's really dangerous and it can be a lot closer to instant death than what you usually think. For a second there I thought that was an enemy, because most Metals in Mega Man are dangerous. At least the Apache Joes here aren't as dangerous as their other brethren. Back in, for example, SMB3, not SMB3, the stage previous of it, what was it? The one with the Contra stage team, Chompman, that stage. That one was really heavily enemy spammy, and it really showcased how frustrating the Apache Joes can be. Again, I'm taking all the way back here. There probably should have been one checkpoint there. Oh well. Well, I just realized what's causing the problems. The Metar's graphic is a bit shorter than what the actual hitbox is, because Mega Man is taller than the Metars. This is gonna cause problems for stages like this one. Well, hello there, all of the Blader Swarm. Especially with areas where I need to do precision jumping near spikes like what we saw earlier. That's what resulted in my deaths on the ladders. Now we have the gyres and other things. That's gonna make some of these jumps more precarious, especially near ceilings. Sure, let's go for it. After all, this is one of the few places where the wire adapter is really useful. So might as well take advantage of it when we can. Oh goody, one of these. I don't trust myself, so... Never mind, it can blow me off of the super arrow too. That makes the fan fiends even more of a hazard. I didn't realize they could do that. Oh, hello there, Dachon, who I just decimated in 2 shots. At least those mind blocks are being introduced pretty well. Although, like I said, I'm not sure if they were a dev kit asset or they were added in by this developer. Also, although it looks like the Metar is shorter than that Elect Beam, it has Mega Man's hitbox, so of course it isn't. What happened? Did I just despawn something I shouldn't had? Well, super arrow time. And death time. I get the feeling I shot something I shouldn't had. Oh goody, a checkpoint. There probably should have been a checkpoint before this, unless I already passed it, because I kept dying at that one room. At least it wasn't too far of a trek back, even though I died about 4 more times. Aha, we have this enemy, or this, whatever this projectile is supposed to be. The Pookers, I believe. The ones from Flame Man's stage that you need to ride by jumping on it in order to pass by all these obstacles. And yet still get hit and knocked back, of course. You know, I could get by this segment by just using the rush jet. This stage is certainly a step up in difficulty in comparison to the previous set of stages I've played so far. Really, the last 10 stages I've been playing through this LP, this is certainly a step up. This absolutely feels like a fortress level. The bladers are not going to help matters at all. And apparently the Pookers can switch directions. I thought they only went one direction. Really liking the mixture of tilesets to make this Fortified Lab. Oh goody, we have the Piri Joes. Or whatever they're called, the P Joes. Or I like to call them the Grabbuster Joes. This is one of those segments where the Metar is increased or non-matching hitbox with the graphic size is going to cause some issues. Music's pretty nice, and the looping is fine. There's absolutely no problems with the looping, unlike the previous stage's odd fade-out. Will we have a boss fight? Nope. Another case of anticlimax. Unfortunate. The rest of the stage was pretty good, pretty solid. It was certainly more challenging than the previous level, and I think there should have been one more checkpoint, but other than that it was fine. The main problem I kept having was more due to the fact of my choice of costume, more than the stage's issue. If you played as Mega Man, it would be a lot easier outside of that one jump near the middle of the stage with all those mines. And some of the placements of the enemies, specifically the bladers, can be a bit obnoxious. Well, that's one way of saying it, Pyro. It certainly was a late NES era Wily Fortress. The Apache Joes were actually not that bad because they were placed in better locations, but it was the bladers that were the main issue, especially the 3 or 4 of them. The bladers swooping down, essentially. You should tone down the blader usage, but the Apache Joe usage was relatively fine for me. A lot less obnoxious than before. The graphics, or at least the aesthetics for the stage, are amazing. This stage definitely thrives on that one. And the latter segment with the Puka riding over the water, boy, that was the toughest part of the stage. This is one of those things where preference brings it down for me. I'd give this a 30 or 31. It's an okay stage, above average, but it's preference issues. As I said, from this point on in Tier 6, all of the levels are going to have pretty nice or fair gimmick and enemy introduction, and the main things that bring them down are certain issues with their implementation, execution, enemy placement, and preferences of course, and musical choices. So this developer does have quite a good eye for aesthetics, although they really should be working more on their execution and implementation of enemy placements and whatnot. Still a pretty good stage. I'm not sure if that's a good idea for you, Flame Man. Alright, the last level of this part. In 28th place is Spiky Situation by 128 up, with a score of 31.8. Juby really didn't like the stage, nor did Ace. Well, Ace, fair enough, but Juby was the outlier. And I get the feeling why. I've heard about this stage. It has one energy element and one noble nickel, but it's near the end, or rather what this stage is about, that makes it quite difficult. And playing as a Matar will probably make this more challenging, especially near the end. So, oh boy. And if you recognize what that save symbol is about, it's from I Wanna Be the Guy. Yep, this is an I Wanna Be the Guy focus stage or inspired stage. So we have spikes everywhere. And those I Wanna Be the Guy spikes, those are instant dead, of course. These needle presses though, they're not instant dead, thankfully. I'll need to abuse invulnerability frames in a lot of parts of this stage, but I will not be able to in the latter parts. So a lot of precision jumping required everywhere, and that's probably why Juby didn't like it. And I was warned about this stage earlier too. So thanks to all those people who warned me about this. We have a Byrie, we have the Shadowman platforms. And unlike the I Wanna Be the Guy save points, these ones you activate by just walking into them, not by shooting them. I like the remixed musical track of Mega Man 4's Wily Fortress team, the latter team when you go to the boss rematch run, or the second team, I forget which. Really enjoyed how it's extended. At least the challenge progression of the stage is pretty nice, although I wish the stage was a little bit more lenient on the instant death spikes, or made them non-instant death like some of my spikes. Thank you for the warning. Is the boss of the stage going to be Needleman? Well, I already know what the boss of the stage is, but it's not Needleman. We have a lot of Komusaboros. Really, the number of enemies in the stage is more on the lenient side, or rather there's not as many. Because we only have the Komusaboros, those Metars, the Suzis, as well as the Byries and Gyries. If you're wondering, the shadowed enemies cannot be destroyed, unfortunately. They're completely immune to all of your attacks. Expect a lot of dead and jump cuts in this stage, especially near the end. These are some of the situations where I really want damage boosting, so I don't fall in the pit and whatever else. It's not as bad as the I Wanna Be the Guy yet. The shadow platforms here are top solid, so you can go jump on them from the bottom. But I do enjoy the fact the stage was a bit more Spartan with its enemy usage. That way it can focus more on its spike usage, or rather its spike gimmick. Because to be fair, if it focused on a lot more annoying enemy types, This stage would be a nightmare to do. I didn't realize those canisters were actually immune to the super arrow. Save point time. Shortcut, just make sure not to embed yourself in the wall. Okay, I need to slide on the left side, it seems. Okay, it doesn't push me around, thank goodness. This probably wasn't the best option. Definitely wasn't the best option. I needed to slide there at the correct time so it passed through the crevice. You know what, I could have done the easy button all this time, and I was just struggling against the hard version of this. I feel silly now. I just need to be careful so I don't get insta-gibbed by any of these spikes though. At least those needles aren't instant dead either, otherwise this stage would be even more of a nightmare to do. Oh, phew, I panicked a bit there and I thought I was going to end up on the spike. Just imagine doing this buster only. It is doable, but it's a pain. M-tank time. And let's see if I die instantaneously for whatever reason. Guess not. Phew. Alas, it's time to fight the boss of the stage. The Kid. A giant version of the Kid. Who attacks us by using cherries and apples, of course. Those were his nemesises back in I Wanna Be the Guy. So the green ones travel left, the red ones travel downwards. The blue ones fire diagonally in a semi-random pattern. Also, I do like the musical track from Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, the boss team. Although I would have preferred the original, more rocking theme. Honestly, in comparison with the previous level before, this boss is rather on the easy side. These apples aren't that dangerous. When he turns yellow up there, the yellow cherry or yellow apple, he starts firing the apples all over the place. And he has one final attack he does before he dies, or he does right after he dies as a desperation move. But that isn't the hardest part of the stage. Oh no, it's coming up right over here. We have an extra boss fight to get the Noble Nickel of the stage. However, the problem with this one is the fact that you cannot pause or switch weapons in this one, so you cannot use E or M tanks. It's the Avoidance Cherry is what I've heard. So in order to destroy the boss, we have to survive its onslaught for as long as possible, but I believe you only get 4 or 5 hits before you die. So I will be silent, and I will utilize jump cuts so I can jump cut to my successful run, if it even is possible. If I'm not successful, I'll just jump cut back to the end of the stage and I'll do it later. After all, I don't need all Noble Nickels to complete the game, at least the main game. I will need it for the post game. But there are certain cheats in order to make this a bit easier, which I could utilize, but I think I'll try doing this the legitimate way. So here goes nothing. Okay, somehow I did this on my first attempt. Whereas, with all the other streamers and Let's Players I saw doing this, it took them several attempts. Somehow, I got this on my first try. Two things of note. First off, you don't actually have 4 or 5 hits before you die in this run. You actually have a lot more hits. It's a lot more like 9. Still, that's rather low, and you cannot use E and M tanks. Second of all of the attacks are synced up to the musical beat, so if you memorize the musical beat and pay attention to it, it becomes a lot easier to dodge everything. Still, the Avoidance Cherry was a pretty neat challenge. Like I said before, Noble Nickels should be a bit harder to get, although some would say this is a bit too hard. But then again, there are cheats for this one. Once again, I reiterate my point that I'm rather shocked that I was able to do it in my first attempt. I expected to die several dozen times. Lucky me, I suppose. I guess being silent really helped my concentration. It is an interesting improvement over 128 Up's previous stage, under construction back in Magma 1. It has a better setup. It also well utilizes its more I wanna be the guy inspirations, with all of the instant death spikes everywhere, but it was treated pretty fairly, and it never really went up to the point to I wanna be the guy levels of pain and suffering and difficulty. I know for a fact because I completed I wanna be the guy back in high school. I never want to do that again. And honestly, the kid fight was rather less challenging than the stage preceding it. Just imagine doing the stage Buster only would be quite a nightmare. Thank goodness we have stuff like the wire adapter, rush coil, rush jet, and the super arrow, especially the super arrow. This is one of those stages that really plays on player preference of who likes it or not. It's like those precision-based spike challenges I've complained about, went through, and talked about a lot in Mega Man Maker. So for those who really like those, they'll pretty much like this stage. In fact, it's more on the easy side, especially in comparison to some of the adversaries and really tough stages I've done in Mega Man Maker. There's only 1 or 2 segments near the mid to late part of the stage which were a bit of a problem, and the hardest part of the stage was the Avoidance Cherry, but even then it wasn't too bad because, unlike I Wanna Be the Guy, getting hit by one of those cherries or fruits wasn't instant death. And also, thankfully, the Avoidance Cherry will not be part of any of the arenas. I was expecting to hate this as well. I thought I was going to suffer a lot through the stage, but honestly, it was pretty nice. I enjoyed it. It's an average to above average stage, but as I said, the main thing that'll really make you like or dislike the stage is your preferences on precision-based challenge of spikes. I think it's doable Buster only, but I'm not sure how it's supposed to work. Maybe it is a bit too difficult to do Buster only. Oh, apparently the collision boxes of those platforms was a bit messed up before. That would have made the stage a lot more of a nightmare. The kid was pretty fun to fight, and I did like how it was well conveyed what attacks would be coming out based off the color of the fruit. So I can't really give this a proper score unfortunately because it really delves on player preference. That's why there's somewhat of a deviation score on Juppy's part. I would give this somewhere between a 28 and 30. I would place this more in tier 6, lower tier 6 or upper tier 6. Well then, I've covered 4 levels in this part, and overall my favorite level would be Cossack's Other Citadel. So in the next part, I'll delve deeper into McWily's and hopefully complete it. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!